Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, once again, the intro didn't work. So I may have to bide my time a little bit until everybody arrives. Don't know what happened there. It's here. It's loaded. It's where it needs to be. It's doing what it should be doing, but it's refusing to play for some reason. I've no idea why that might be. I'm going to say a very quick good morning to Dan Cullen, who just joined us. Just going to make sure that all of the ducks are in a row, making sure that Twitch is playing. It does appear to be. Is Instagram behaving itself? That appears to be as well. So all is right with the world, aside from the fact that the intro didn't play. No idea what happened there. Dan, let's get ready to rock and roll. I am ready. I'm just waiting for everybody else to arrive as well. Wow, no intro. Yeah, Dan, that's the second time in about 2 weeks that's happened. I have no idea why. It's here. I've pressed the play button. Nothing happened. I hope that doesn't mean the other videos aren't going to play as well. Gary Muirhead from sunny Tenerife. How's it going, Gary? Hope you're fitting well. He was wearing an excellent Larini t-shirt on his Holly Bobs yesterday. Speaking of Larini, they're in the show today. Mark Whiting is here as well. Good morning, Mark. Jim Turner is here. Peter McKenna is here. Steve Williamson is here. We're slightly ahead of schedule, but by about a minute, I think, because that's how long the intro normally lasts. Very quick heads up. Ahead of today's show and ahead of today's sort of after show bit, partly inspired by the fact that yesterday's Mystery Machine Excavator World Cup pitted O&K against Priestman. Obviously, two brands that are no longer with us. O&K is kind of tucked away in the background, obviously, but it's no longer with us as the O&K brand. And it set me thinking about, and all things nostalgic, and about how we seem to have an affection for machines of old. Less so for now, maybe. Can you imagine us sharing the same affection for, I don't know, a Caterpillar 325 in 20 years' time as we had for a RB 22 or something like that? Honestly, can't imagine it. Chris Ford is here as well. Morning, Chris. Thank you very much indeed for being here. I'm sure you will be a key part of the conversation when it gets to all things related to nostalgia and stuff. And it also set me thinking about how our relationship with cars. My first car was a VW Beetle, primarily because my dad had one when I was a kid, and I always loved it. And it was old, and it was smelly, and it was too expensive, and broke down a bit. But I loved the car. It had personality. When was the last time you saw a car with personality? I wonder if we will still talk fondly about the Tiguan in the way that we talk about a VW Beetle in years to come. Steve Williamson, the younger generation, says, I'm the opposite, Mark. Old machines are great, but I love the technology. I look at the new machines now. I'm in the present rather than the past. Fair comment. And listen, my job very much hinges upon keeping my finger on the pulse and bringing you the very latest of the greatest. But I do wonder, and I wonder if it's a fact that machines are now so hugely mass produced, and they're produced on production lines, and that they don't actually have that stamp of, I don't know, hand builtness. Maybe I'm looking, it's probably the same. I'm sure there are lots and lots of people getting awfully excited about the music of today, which kind of leaves me cold. And yet, take me back to the 80s, and I can still, I won't do that to you, but I can still sing 80s songs from start to finish, because they meant so much to me. Maybe we just get locked in time. I don't know. Steve also says, I do love a good old dragline, though. We'll be talking about all of that in the fullness of time. Dan Cullen just said, good morning to Peter McKenna, Jim Turner, Gary Muirhead, and Chris Ford. I will echo that. Shall we start? I think we probably should. I've got an intro. I hope it plays. And then we'll be cracking on with the show right after this. It is Tuesday, the 27th of August. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, how Marco Larini plans to shake up the demolition world. Magni takes a little R&R. We're keeping the tracks turning with Caterpillar and Komatsu's vision. Blasters have already flagged up. In our after-show chat, Mark's morning monologue, there's a name that will never catch on. I'm going to be reminiscing while discussing why we have such a fondness for the equipment of years gone by. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine to get to. There you are. I think you've got to experience the older machines to understand. Yeah, I'm sure that is the case. Sure, that is the case. And Dan Cullen, Facebook, a little bit behind the other channels. It is. It is. I think if you want to see this quickest, Twitch. If you want to see it slowest, generally Facebook. And the other platforms tend to be somewhere between the two. So yes, we will play catch up. So let me play you this, and then I'll show you what the mystery machine of today is. And I'm telling you now, I don't think you're going to get it. Now, I've said this before, and I've been caught out, so I may be overstating things, but today's machine, a mystery machine, is a tough one. It really is a tough one. That's what it is. You have half a wheel. I will be showing you plenty of it, but I will be genuinely astounded and impressed if anybody deciphers exactly what that is. It's an obscure machine from an equally obscure brand. I can't give you any more clues than that. It will all become clear in the fullness of time. While you're trying to figure that out, I do need to play a bit of this. Yeah, it's Excavator World Cup time again, and it's a big one today. This could have been a worthy final, I reckon, because it sees the mighty Liebherr going head-to-head with the equally mighty Volvo. So you know the rules by now. Imagine I've just handed you £150,000 of my own imaginary money, and you need to invest it in an excavator or more than one excavator, and you only have two brands to choose from. You can choose either Volvo or Liebherr. Which way are you going? Frankly, I would be really, really hard pushed to decide. I really would. But let me know what you think. I mean, I will say this: the best machine, to my mind, the best machine at Bauma last time around was the Liebherr 980. But having recently been to Eskilstuna, seen the new, what are not called the F Series, but the new F Series machines from Volvo. So I find myself torn. Hope it doesn't come down to me actually voting. But let's have a look. What have we got? Gary is going with Volvo. Peter McKenna cancels that out with a Liebherr vote. Ken Hatter is going for a Volvo. Steve Williamson is going for Volvo. And I can tell you, Steve is going for, on our mystery machine, he's going for Volvo LM621. It's not one of those. And Dan Cullen is going for a Shenlong loading shovel. It's not one of those either. So what have we got? We've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes for Volvo. Just the one for Liebherr so far. I was expecting it to be closer than that. Right, while we've got the mystery machine on, there we are. That's Dan Cullen bringing up the rear slightly. So while we've got that machine on, there you are. As I say, it's an obscure brand. It's an obscure model. It's an obscure machine. Deliberately. Thought I'd try and mix things up a bit. So yeah, please let us know if you have any guesses on that. And there's another vote for Volvo. It is starting to look like this could be a Volvo victory, which would be a terrible. Well, no, it will be a good thing for Volvo, but a terrible thing in the grand scheme of things. If I'd have had my choice, those two would have at least made it to the semi-finals. But one of them will be leaving us today. So keep us posted on your thoughts on whether you prefer Volvo or Liebherr. Dan Cullen says Liebherr is more of a machine than a Volvo. Yeah, see, I'm not entirely sure I'd agree with that either. I find it very, very hard to draw a distinction between the two because they're both so good. While you're mulling that over in your head, I'll be back in a sec. Those of you that know, and certainly those of you that follow him over on LinkedIn will know that Marco Larini of Larini over in Italy is nothing short of a genius. It comes up with machines that nobody's even considered before, and he's now turning his attention to demolition machines. Obviously, he was part of the brain behind the Jumbo that we brought you with, to great aplomb, actually, about a year ago now. But he's now set his sights even further still. He has produced, or he is planning to produce, a brand new demolition machine built from the ground up. And this is what it's going to look like. I don't think I've looked forward to a machine quite that much since as long as I can remember. Gary Muirhead says I've been invited across to this by Marco. He's going to keep me updated when it's launched. Funnily enough, I was speaking to Marco myself yesterday, and I'm planning to get over there as well. Gary, wouldn't it be fab? You and I popping over to Italy together. That would be lovely. I'll keep you posted on my movements. I'm probably going to be going before the machine is actually launched. Because that will then give me an opportunity to go back when it is launched. I'll just say. Right, so going back to our mystery machine, that's what you had to work with. What have we had? Dan Cullen is saying John Deere 544L. It is not one of those. Chris Ford saying the Ford A62 shovel. It's not. And Alice Chalmers in 940. No, it's not. International 530. It's not one of those. Ken Hatcher says, I thought someone would have mounted the boom or the cab on the boom by now. Senebo can do that. Listen, given the genius that is Marco Larini, maybe that's something up for consideration. Jim Turner is going for a Sanderson forklift. It's not. I'll show you a bit more. There you are. Does that help at all? I'll be very, as I say, be very, very surprised. In fact, I could even pencil my name against today's victory, but I may yet be astounded. What have we got? Peter McKenna going for a Fiat Alice F9. I can tell you, nobody has the right make at all as yet. So anybody that's saying John Deere, Alice Chalmers, International, any of those, Weather Hill loading shovel, nope, not one of those either. Anybody saying any of those, you're not even in the ballpark. Going to hop back to this. As it stands at the moment, Volvo is in a fairly clear lead. But if you would like to put your votes against one of those, who should go forward to the next round? Who should be leaving us? If you'd like to choose Volvo, just type Volvo in the chat. If you prefer Liebherr, type Liebherr in the chat. It's very, very straightforward. Even I could take part in a competition as straightforward as this. Right, I shall return in just a moment.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, about time we went out on site with a bit of telescopic handler action, courtesy of those fine folks at Magni.
Hey, what's up? My name's Kyle Stumpenhorst, and I'm the owner of RR Buildings. I operate out of Northern Illinois, and what we do is specialize currently in post-frame construction. We do a lot of shops, houses, barns, storage, application type structures. So the project behind me is actually my own personal workshop for the business. It's been kind of a long time coming. My opinion on cranes are they're costly, they're ran by somebody else, and when it shows up on site, literally everybody has to focus on what needs to be done to get that crane off site because they're costing you money. A machine like this, it gives me the crane-like capabilities, but also I can run it, I can do things at my own pace and my own comfort level, which is a big thing for me. One of the benefits is by using the Magni Rotator here, I'm able to work a lot more efficiently because I'm a small crew. This tool serviced all the applications I needed. It did it phenomenally, it's smooth, it's quiet, it's comfortable. I mean, as soon as this machine was delivered, we were right to work because we pulled it right into site. We can either use it without the outriggers or at a touch of a button, there's an automatic outrigger function, which you send them out, it goes down, it will self-level. And you know, it's just very intuitive. If you're used to any sort of pilot controls, if you've ever ran an excavator, a skid loader, anything like that, you feel right at home. They do a very good job of the screen layout because each screen has like a certain purpose. So when you want to know what your load chart is, you go to the load chart page. When you want to set out your outriggers, you go to the outrigger self-leveling page. Operating the Magni is literally the safest machine I've ran, not just because it has the built-in sensors that will yell at you if you try to push it too far. I like the safety of being out where I can use the remote. By being out of the Magni, moving around your materials with the remote, I feel at perfect ease. The safety built into the machine with sensors is a great positive thing. Knowing that when my load chart changes over, when I hook up to a different attachment, it takes all the guesswork out of it. This can reduce labor on the job site. It can make you quicker. This is what you want if you want to be fast, efficient, and safe. I don't know why somebody would not invest in one of these because you could probably cut down 1 or 2 guys and have a safer operation, a more efficient operation, and also it's just really cool. So I think you look like a really professional builder when you have one on your job site.
Turns out today's mystery machine is a head scratcher, as I predicted it would be. Peter McKenna is going for a Fiat Alice F9. It's not. A Weatherhill loading shovel, not one of those either. Hanomag loader, nope. Fiat Alice 605B, it's not. Case W26, it's not. Volvo BM 120F, not one of those. It's not a Liebherr, it's not a Clark Michigan of any description. It's certainly not a Cat 992B. It's not a Dresser Trojan. It's not a Cat 910. It's not, as I say, not a Clark Michigan at all. Let me show you a bit more. As I said at the very outset, I'll be very, very impressed if anyone gets this. I'm going to say good morning to Pivotal Plant Hire. Just join us over on Instagram. They pop in and out on here quite a bit. Good morning, gentlemen and ladies, assuming there are some ladies there as well. Let's have a look. A Hoff HC65. No, it's not one of those either. Oh, could I be emerging with a victory today? It's starting to look that way. I will keep you posted on all of that. Back after this with a bit of Caterpillar. Yeah, still getting the guesses coming. Christopher is going for a Volvo 4420. It's nobody has the right brand yet. Nobody has the right brand. So anybody that's saying Dresser, Clark Michigan, Caterpillar, Hoff, Volvo, no, none of those. I'll show you a bit more just to be absolutely fair. Does that help? Earl Fallon just joined us over on Instagram. Morning, Earl. A Michigan L16. No, it's not one of those either. Keep the guesses coming. I'm going to take that away for just a moment because it's Caterpillar time and all about uptime and keeping the wheels and the tracks turning.
Let's say you manage a multi-site operation, but equipment downtime and the unplanned maintenance costs that come with it are out of control and taking a toll. So you reach out to your local Cat dealer. And before your numbers can get any worse, your dealer is on the job, along with Cat Job Site Solutions. They work together with you to review your data, identify trends and alerts, and define your challenges, including the root issues that are causing your challenges, and then craft a custom solution for your operation that includes machine condition monitoring, comprehensive ongoing reporting services, and all the coaching and consulting it takes to help you make the changes stick within your organization. Plus, CAT Job Site Solutions has the tools and experience to get the job done efficiently and with as little disruption as possible. Here's the best part, the outcomes, like a 48% increase in your mean time between stoppages, a 9% increase in planned maintenance, a 2% increase in physical availability, and the improved overall health of your most critical assets. Now, your sites are a step closer to optimization. Your people have the training and insights to keep the ball rolling. And you can at last set your mind at ease thanks to your local CAT dealer and CAT Job Site Solutions.
He has the mystery machine, which looks like this. What do we have here? Dan reckons it could be a Komatsu. It's not. Peter McKenna. Now, Peter he's nowhere near, but at least he's thinking outside the box, which I think is exactly what's required today. He's gone for a Kawasaki AT-ZV2. It's not one of those. It's not a Kawasaki at all, but you're kind of headed in the right direction. It's that obscure. Dan is going for a Mapro. It's not. He's also gone for a don't you love predictive text? He's gone for a handbag. 22C. Fairly sure he means a Hanamag. It's not. Chris Ford, Sarnison GX 525. It's not one of those. It's not a Bray. It's not a. Is that a Caleball? Not one of those either. No, keep the guesses coming. I will show you a smidge more. There you are. There's not many more clues I can give you. That's just the way it looks, I'm afraid. So I'm going to take that away for now. I can tell you that it's all over by it's pretty much all over by the shouting. Looks like Volvo are going to emerge victorious on today's Excavator World Cup, but there's still a bit of time. What have we got? We've got we've got one more video to play before we decide all of that. So I'll be back right after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Dan Cullen has offered up the Zettelmeyer ZL602. It's not one of those. It's not a TCM 850. All these blasts from the past. Nobody's got it yet. Let me just have a look very quickly. I can show you a bit more. There you are. That's what it looks like at the moment. And you've got, I think our final film is about a minute and a half. So if nobody's got it by then chalk up 3 points to me. I'll take that away because I will play the final film. And the final film of today comes from Komatsu.
We were born out of necessity. We didn't hire people to build machines. We built machines so that we could hire people. It had to work because our town needed work. And the name of that town was Komatsu. Soon, we were in towns all over the world. Everywhere, work was needed. In construction, in mining, in forestry. Because necessity is the mother of invention, and innovation is how society overcomes challenges. Today, our machines may be bigger, they may be stronger and more precise, but we still build them to answer the needs of society, because there is still work to be done. Big challenges requiring big machines. Gentle giants.
Love the audio on that. Nice and quiet and whispery. Very, very nice indeed. chalk up a victory for me because nobody's got it. Final guess, I think, comes from Dan Cullen, who is saying a JCB 418. It is not. It's none of those things that you've thrown up. So, do excuse me. Let me show you exactly what it is. That there is a Huta Stalowa Wola L34. Polish built, and the old Stalowa Wola factory is now the home to Dresda, that kind of Lugong offshoot. So yes, over in Poland, the Stalowa Wola, I know when I was on Contract Journal, we always refer to them as Stawalla Wola, which is not how you pronounce it, not even how you spell it, but it's Stalowa Wola, Polish built wheel loader. Chalk up 3 points to me. I think that may actually put me in second position. Don't think I'm going to catch Dan though, but there you are. That's today's mystery machine. Peter, you're digging deep for these now, Mark. Do you know? Funnily enough, I mean, normally I go away and look for images and stuff like that, and I was literally sat here yesterday, and it was like, bloody hell, there's a blast from the past. As I say, we always used to refer to it as Stawalla Wola. And I went and had a look, and I found a picture of the Stalowa Wola. There you are. Dan Cullen, never heard of them. Never in a million years would I have guessed that. Yes, there you are. I'll make it a bit easier tomorrow. And we've also got this to announce. So let me do this. So the latest round of our Excavator World Cup competition pitted Volvo against Liebherr, but which brand came out on top? Well, we put it to the public vote, and I can tell you that the winner is... it's Volvo. Volvo goes forward to the second round, while Liebherr sadly leaves empty-handed. Tomorrow's match is going to be another titanic struggle because it will see Kabelco taking on Terex. So make sure you tune in and take part in that one, if you would be so kind. There we are. Dan Cullen saying never heard of them. Peter McKenna, I'm with Dan. See, industry knowledge. Industry knowledge, Worthing. Are you watching? Are you listening? Are you seeing this? Yeah. Not new to this. I am the OG. I ain't new to this, as they say. I'm going to roll our new Mark's Morning Monologue stinger in just a second, because I want to take you down memory lane in just a moment. Komatsu was started by Mr. Takuchi. Was it? And I'm fairly sure that somebody told me once, and I know that they were talking about Komatsu as a place. I'm sure somebody once told me that Komatsu was Japanese for giant oak tree or something like that. Not sure. Gary Muirhead, that was my next answer. Was it? Was it now? Right, let me play this because I've as I say, going to get all nostalgic now. Let me just clear my throat. Nostalgia is a powerful force. It's a bridge between the past and the present, a way to connect with memories that evoke a sense of comfort, pride, and even longing. In the construction equipment industry, nostalgia runs deep, particularly when it comes to brands like Hymac, O&K, Priestman, Rust and Bucyrus, and a whole host of others. These names are more than just companies that manufactured machinery in the dim and distant past. They represent a golden era in construction, a time when the equipment was built to last, when engineering was as much about craftsmanship as it is about functionality. For many industry veterans, the mere mention of Hymac conjures up images of rugged, dependable machines that were the very backbone of countless construction projects. Hymac, with its iconic yellow livery, was a staple on construction sites throughout the UK and beyond. The company's hydraulic excavators were renowned for their reliability and ease of use, making them a favourite among operators. For those who spent any time in the cab of a Hymac, the brand is more than just a memory. It's a symbol of times gone by. Similarly, O&K holds a special place in the hearts of many in the industry. Known for their robust and innovative designs, O&K machines were synonymous with quality. The company was a pioneer in the development of large-scale mining equipment, and their excavators and dump trucks were a common sight in quarries and construction sites around the world. The sight of an O&K excavator with its distinctive red and white colour scheme is enough to bring a smile to the face of anyone who remembers the brand's heyday. Likewise, Priestman, a name that evokes a strong sense of nostalgia. Founded in the 19th century, the company was a pioneer in the production of cranes and excavators. Priestman machines were known for their durability and versatility, making them a popular choice for a wide range of construction tasks. The company's Tiger, Lion, and Panther models in particular are fondly remembered by all those who operated them. And Ruston Bucyrus, another brand that stirs up feelings of nostalgia. The company was a major player in the production of excavators and draglines. Ruston Bucyrus machines, or RBs as they're more commonly known, were a common sight on large-scale demolition and construction projects, and their distinctive design made them instantly recognisable. Little wonder that they are now seen as collector's items. So why do these brands elicit such strong feelings of nostalgia? Part of the reason, I think, is that they represent a different era in the construction industry. During the time when these brands were at their peak, the industry was less driven by technology and more by the skill of the operator. Machines like those made by Hymac, O&K, Priestman, and Ruston Bucyrus were not just tools, they were extensions of the operator's skills and experience. Operating one of these machines required a deep understanding of its mechanics, a level of expertise that is perhaps less emphasized in today's more automated world. The machines from these brands were built to last, and in many cases, they did last for decades. This longevity is a testament to the quality of their design and construction, and it's something that many in the industry look back on with fondness. And while I realise it's probably just sentimentality talking, these old machines seem to have had a character, a personality that modern, more high-tech machines just lack. But what about those modern brands? Do they elicit the same level of nostalgia and sentimentality? It's a difficult question to answer. In some ways, modern brands like Caterpillar, Komatsu, and Volvo are continuing the legacy of those older brands, building machines that are powerful, reliable, and built to last. However, the industry has changed, and with it, the relationship between operators and their machines. Today, construction equipment is often seen as more of a commodity than the result of a craft. The rise of technology has brought with it a level of automation and standardization that was unheard of in the days of Hymac and O&K. Machines today are equipped with GPS, telematics, and other advanced systems that make them easier to operate, but perhaps less personal. That's not to say that modern brands won't be looked back on with nostalgia in the future. There's a good chance that in 20 or 30 years, industry veterans will look back on today's machines with the same fondness that they currently reserve for brands like Priestman and RB. However, the nature of that nostalgia may be different. Instead of remembering the feel of a well-worn lever or the sound of a chugging engine, they might reminisce about the precision of GPS-guided equipment or the efficiency of hybrid power systems. In the end, nostalgia is as much about the memories we associate with a particular brand as it is about the machine itself. For those who grew up in the industry during the heyday of Hymac, O&K, Priestman, and Ruston Bucyrus, those brands will always hold a special place in their hearts. They represent a time when the industry was different, when the relationship between man and machine was more personal, more hands-on. And while the industry may have changed, the memories of those brands and the pride that comes with having worked with them will endure. So while modern brands might not yet inspire the same level of nostalgia, they are building the foundations for future generations. The machines today, or the machines of today, will become the classics of tomorrow. And the operators of today will someday look back on them with the same fondness and pride that we now reserve for the brands of the past. One day, perhaps today's operators will look back at the machines of now and reminisce. They don't make them like that anymore. Just a couple of very quick points, and I'm going to go over to the chat in just a second. First of all, why is it that some machines and even cars are blessed with a personality or a character? To my mind, a VW Beetle has a personality. An old school Mini Cooper has personality. Even the Audi TT, the original shape Audi TT, has personality. A Tesla doesn't. Also, and it only occurred to me while I was writing that, I wonder if the way in which machines are named now has something to do with it. A Priestman Tiger. It's an easy name to remember. Everyone of that period knows precisely what that looks like. Same as a 22RB. Say 22RB to a construction or demolition person of a certain age, and they will be able to picture it in their heads. But an XE155 ECR? What the fuck is that? So, over to the chat. Let's get nostalgic. Good. Wow. Wow. Dr. Yvonne Waterman with lots of letters after her name. Good morning from Bogota. From Bogota. Yes, we have viewers in, that is Colombia, right? It is. Yes. Peter McKenna has got the rain. Passes Mark a new set of dentures. Yes, I did trip up there a bit. I do. Have you? Anton, I'm not going to try and pronounce your surname. Have you heard of Volvo's reverse loaders? I have not. I have not. Good morning from Bogota. No rain. Peter McKenna, beautiful day. Must be the ducks running dry. Dan Cullen. Wow, that's interesting. Thank you, Dan. And Chris Ford, if I was getting married tomorrow, I'd love you to write my wedding speech. The only problem would be I'd forget to turn up. Well, listen, I regularly deliver speeches for other people. Should I tell you a very quick story before, just in case nobody does comment on all things nostalgic? Many moons ago, I was on an NFDC convention I'm fairly sure it was Monte Carlo. And there was a guy there representing the Genesis brand. Genesis, love the brand, love the equipment, make some fantastic attachments. But this guy was not really up to much. Anyway, sure enough, he went out on the lash on one of the nights, and he was due to give a speech the following day. Turns out he decided he wasn't feeling well enough to do his speech. So he gave it to me to deliver it for him. Unfortunately, he had come up with a bunch of slides, but he hadn't actually come up with a speech. There was no words. So I took to my feet. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this presentation about Genesis. I'll tell you two things that I know about Genesis. One, it's the first book in the Bible. And number two, it was the name of a band that I didn't much care for. And that was pretty much my speech. I've improved since then. Is that not the old loaders with a big wheel and small wheels at the back? It could well be. I will go away and look for Volvo's reverse loaders in a moment. And I wonder if Anton, can I take a guess that you might well be Finnish? Are you Finnish? That second name, which I'm not going to try and pronounce, looks vaguely Finnish to me. These new electric cars are ugly. All big plastic grill, and a taxi I was in electric cost him £800 per mile, 800 PM to run, as he had a Prius 350 PM to run the same mileage. Okay, there is a thing, and it's a weird thing. This, how I say we, I'm going to say I. Whenever you go to one of these vintage plant rallies, and I know both Jim and Chris have been to one recently, there is something about the colour, and I think the word is patina, of old paint. When you look at an old Cat tractor dozer, or you look at an old Priestman or an old RB, there is something about the way that the paint weathers. There's a bit of rust there, but it just has that thing. Whereas now, even a machine that's 10 years old, it just looks clean and pristine. And I think we've lost a thing there. I do also wonder, and I've said this before, I do wonder about the naming convention that we use on our machines. As I say, a 22RB, I can picture that in my head. I've shut my eyes. Yes, I've got a 22RB. What is an XE155 ECR? I can tell you it's actually an XCMG excavator, but it doesn't have that same thing. And I also wonder, and I'm kind of torn with this. Obviously, Caterpillar have gone full circle. You will remember, particularly with their dozers. Their dozers used to be, it was a D11N, a D11R, a D11T, and so they then did away with the letter at the end. So now, in 20 years' time or 30 years' time, you'll be talking in a bar with somebody. Yeah, I used to drive a D11. Which one? D11. Whereas when it was a D11N, you could, oh, right, okay, that would have been what? Early 90s or thereabouts. You'd have known. Oh, man alive. Gary Muirhead hitting the nail on the head. There is only one thing better in the world than the smell of a new book or the smell of a new car. And that's the smell of an old book and an old car. There's a place not a million miles away from me down in Sussex called Arundel. There's a half a dozen, I've not been for a while, but there used to be half a dozen old bookshops, and they were musty and dusty. But honestly, you pick up a book that's 80, 90, 100 years old. Unbelievable stuff. And an old car, my old VW Beetle had the smell of worn leather about it. I can't characterize it in any other way, but it had a certain thing. And funnily enough, when I was up at Eskilstuna with Volvo not so long ago, you go around the Monktail Museum. They got a couple of the old Volvo BM machines from around about the late 80s, early 90s, and they have that same smell. They've just got that lived in. I've done a 10 years of, 15, 20 years of work. They just have that whiff about them. And I do think smell and sound, like if somebody plays you an old song, you know where you were. There is a song, I'm sure most of you would know it. There is a song by the band Crowded House called Don't Dream It's Over. Very famous song. Now, the band was mostly Australian with a New Zealander thrown in for good measure, but it was a big hit here in the UK. But I literally hear the first couple of bars of that, and I am in New York. Because that's where I heard it first. There's another song by Simple Minds, Belfast Child, another song from the 90s. When I hear that, I am in Brussels, because it was big on MTV while I was in Brussels. Marco Larini is here. Stand by your beds, people. I must leave, but I look forward to seeing you soon. Congratulations on your podcast. Thank you, Marco. Well, congratulations on your everything. Listen, this is the chat here is like the unofficial Marco Larini fan club. You've timed your entry perfectly. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen, as we used to say on old machines, no smoke, no poke. Love the smell of it. Yeah. And I mentioned that chugging engine. There is a sound to a VW Beetle. There's a sound to an old RB that you will never ever replicate. Can you imagine in 30 years' time somebody a bunch of old farts? Steve, you're an exception. A bunch of old farts sitting around a bar chatting. Oh yes, do you remember just how whisper quiet that early electric Volvo was? Nobody's ever going to say that, are they? No, nobody's going to say that. Yvonne Waterman says, I know exactly what you mean. I always hunt old bookshops for the English classics. I go one further than that. And this goes to show that I'm a slightly strange individual. Behind me, you can't see it. Although, yeah, you can. There. All of those are books by Stephen King. I'm a fan, but I'm also a collector. I've got Stephen King books. I mean, I've basically got a copy of everything he's ever written, probably 95% of them in hardback. But I've also been on my travels. I've got Spanish language versions of Stephen King books. I've got German language versions of Stephen King books, and I speak neither Spanish nor German. I wanted to own it. I've even got here somewhere, maybe in storage. I've even got the copy of a screenplay that he wrote for a TV show that was never made. But when you're into it, you're a completist. Gary says, I still remember being at Finning Caterpillar in Glasgow when they launched the 300 series excavators, when we were still operating the 219, 235, 245. It was sad to see them go. Yeah. The 219 may well have been the first excavator I ever drove. Just playing that in my head. I think I'd driven a backhoe loader before that, but I think a 219 is the first. Have you seen the new series drama, The Outsider by Stephen King? I have not. There's a long list of stuff that I need to watch, but amazing. Such a twist. That's what Stephen King will do for you. Yeah, absolutely. And well, as you can see, and there are some that I go back to time and time again. But going back to this notion of nostalgia, think about that. So I didn't learn to drive until I was 22, 23 years old. And by that time I had, I could have gone and bought myself a Ford Capri or a Ford Escort or, something a bit leery, a bit tasty, a bit quick. Nope. I deliberately went out and bought myself, paid way over the odds for it. I went and bought myself a VW Beetle because of the nostalgic connection. My dad had one when I was a kid, and I wanted to be like my dad. Even things like, and this will mean nothing to most of you. I'll come back to you, Steve. Some absolute belters, but yeah, even things like, as I say, won't mean much to most of you. I've got fishing gear. I've got my fishing gear, and I've got all of my dad's old fishing gear. Well, I say old. My dad's fishing gear was much more up to date than mine, and he's got carbon fiber this and carbon fiber that and everything else. There is nothing quite like an old center pin reel and a split cane rod. It weighs more than anything that my dad had, but it takes you back to a certain time. Steve says that's what Julia from Kinsoffer drives, an old Beetle. I already had an enormous amount of affection for Julia anyway. I love her even more for that. Any good books by Stephen King for the holiday? Well, all of them. I mean, I would say that there are a few standouts. Just trying to remember. There's just for holiday reasons, if I can get my mouse to work. In addition to all of the longer books that he's done, he's also done some collections of short stories, and I'm just trying to remember which one it was that really stands out. Yeah, I can't remember, but there's my favorite story by Stephen King is The Dead Zone. And bearing in mind we are, we've lived through a Trump presidency, and the fact that we could yet have another one, The Dead Zone would be an absolute recommendation, because it's not what you think. It really isn't. But there's also a couple of collections of short stories. 4 Past Midnight is one. I'm trying to remember the name of the other one, but he did a short story called we've done 2 that really stand out. The Body, which was turned into the movie Stand By Me, which is an absolute belter. But there's another one which was probably considered too dark to ever actually televise or turn into a movie. It's called The Breathing Method. Oh, that'll get you. That really will get you. Dan Cullen says, my first car was a Renault 4. Love those old cars. They go anywhere. Absolutely. Dan Cullen says he also had a Ford Fiesta, XR2i, and a Peugeot GTI. Dan Cullen, the boy racer. Absolutely. Booked up to go stargazing up Mount. Is that Tida? Mount Tida, obviously on Tenerife. I think that'll be fab. I'm assuming being up a mount, light pollution is a big deal when you are stargazing. If you can find yourself in a forest somewhere or on top of a mountain, it's staggering when you realise just how many stars there are. I remember being night fishing with an old mate of mine, sadly no longer with us, and we weren't catching very much. So I was literally laid on the bank, staring up at the sky, and we were in the middle of nowhere, in a lake in the middle of nowhere. No light pollution for miles and miles around. And I know, I realise the statistics. I realise there are millions of stars, but it's only when you get a clear night and a very, very dark sky, you realise just what millions of stars really looks like. Unbelievable. You'll have a fantastic time, Gary. Get some photos. The only horror stories I get are what's gone wrong today. Like my intro falling off before I'd even started. Yeah, no idea what happened there. So, people, that will probably do us. We have work to do and stuff. I've put a new article out today, or a new video out today, should I say, over on my other channel where I'm talking about AI and stuff like that. Steve says, it's freezing up there. Remember to take a hoodie. It can be 30 degrees, but when you get up there, it's Baltic. Steve Williams, yes, but you have to remember, Gary is from Scotland. Well, I know Steve is, but Gary is from Scotland. He will be up there in a string vest and a pair of shorts, and he will feel no pain. Obviously, I love old plant and tractors, but they're always better in their working clothes. As I say, there's just... And I've got the same feeling. Funnily enough, I've got exactly the same feeling about the colours of guitars. I don't play guitar. My son does. I don't play guitar. But when you see an old, slightly battered, slightly weather-worn Fender, that kind of washed-out green and that washed-out blue, just something about it. Chris Ford said, had a clean out of the office yesterday, found some old mags from 1999, and yes, there was a razzle there. Was I in it? Was there a column in there called Crap Shag Corner? Usually on about page 2 or 3. Thereabouts. Gary Muirhead says, don't worry, I've got plenty of padding to keep me warm. And you have your love to keep you warm, obviously. And Chris Phil says, no crap shag corner. It's less of a collector's item than Chris, I'm afraid. But hey, if you want to send it down, please feel free. Not seen one in years. I did give it a look. Yes, just reading it for the articles. I'm sure you were, Chris. Right, people, I've no idea what I'm going to be babbling on about tomorrow. That's never stopped me before. So go and have a fantastic day. Enjoy your stargazing, Gary. I'm very, very envious. To Yvonne, go and enjoy Bogota. We have tractors we've used for over 30 years that I'd never sell. I saw a 3C for sale the other day. Been in the same family since new. Why bother selling it? Yeah. And I do wonder just that, like when I sold my Beetle, I'd got a company car. So I had a company car that was way better than the VW Beetle. It had an automatic gearbox, and it didn't have sat nav. This is years ago, but it had all the mod cons. And I was genuinely sad to see the Beetle go. I've not been sad to see one of my cars go ever since. Yeah, it's just, I'll have a new one. Thank you very much. It's just gone. There is something about that nostalgia. And maybe it's the fact that I'm an old fart and that's how I see the world these days. Could well be. I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. for more of whatever the hell this has been. See you on the morrow. Till then, look after yourselves. Have a good day. See you later.